Hello, everyone, and welcome to this conversation presented by White House Custom Color.
Are you trying to mute me? No, it's just real loud, and I can't.
I sold Amazon, but it was $25.
Listening to listen, not listening to respond.
Yes. Oh, thank you for that. I reached out to you because I saw a post that you had, and I want to get into that. But first of all, introduce yourself and tell me all about you, and I'll probably have some questions.
Okay, perfect. So this is a 3-hour long podcast?
Oh my.
No, I'm kidding. No, definitely born and raised small town Minnesota. My dad was a teacher and he's a workaholic, which I think I kind of got a lot of what he had because he could not take his summers off and not do anything. So he said, I think I'll do photography because that's, I can do all the senior pictures in the summer and the weddings in the summer. So he actually started a photography business. We lived in a house in the woods, by a river, and a small town. He was like the only photography in town, and our studio was in our home. So I grew up with a dark room in my house, and I was one of 3, so I was the only girl. So he always grabbed me to do lighting tests, and there's a beautiful sunset, grab me, and we'd run and do a sunset. So I kind of grew up with the love of photography and always holding a camera in my hands. And I went more the art route, graphic design. But after college, life took a big turn and brought me to Guatemala because my parents started a project for a nonprofit in Guatemala. And so they invited me to go down after they'd been about a year to do some photography and video with their children and their project to kind of market their project. And so I went down, and one thing led to another, and I ended up down there married and having children. So I was down there for 8 years. And unfortunately, I was in a marriage that wasn't working out. And so I knew I needed to start something on my own. And photography was just what I knew I wanted to do. So his job took us to Miami. And as soon as we landed in Miami, I started planning and knew I wanted to do photography. So I leaped off a cliff. I didn't know I didn't know anything about running a business. And I knew a little bit about taking pictures and borrowed some of my dad's old Norman lights, with the big heavy thing that you plugged all the lights in.
Oh yeah.
And started out in our house in Miami, and I didn't know a soul. So I kind of just started from scratch and grew slowly. But as I grew, it was about 2 years, I had enough clients that I had got a studio. And as soon as I had a studio in a very cool part of Miami, my business just flourished. And I had so many clients. And I did more the hand-painted black and white kind of artsy. Mm-hmm. And back then, it was a lot of male photographers who kind of shunned against anyone that did anything more artsy. You had to have, take 10 minutes to pose someone and have the Rembrandt lighting and just everything be so perfect. And here I am with people on the beach dancing and singing. And I just took a whole different approach. So I wasn't taken seriously by their photographers. So I really didn't get involved in any groups or anything, but I really grew my business to be very busy. And after our divorce, my ex-husband was going to move back to Guatemala. So I knew I wanted to come back up to Minnesota with my kids. A lot of his family lives up here in Minnesota, and my whole family, and Miami's not really a place I wanted to raise the kids. Mm-hmm. And so I actually sold my business to a client of mine. I was just talking to her one day saying, yeah, I'm going to be moving. I think I might sell my business. She said, well, I might be interested. So she talked to her husband. The next day she says, I'm in. So she followed me for 3 months, and I was able to just kind of hand it off to her and moved up to Minnesota in 2001 and took the summer off to kind of hang out with the kids. And September, when they went back to school, I went to the studio to start painting when 9/11 happened. So that kind of, that kind of was a very interesting time. But I just started growing my business from scratch up here in Minnesota.
You started again, right?
I started again. Yep. Started in a small Victorian house. in a lovely area near Lake Minnetonka. And it grew pretty quickly. So then I outgrew that house and moved into a bigger studio. And about 8 years after that, or 4 years in the big studio, the overhead was just killing me. I was doing 250 seniors by myself in 3-4 months in the summer. And it was just absolutely killing me to the point where I was just like a robot, just 4 or 5 sessions a day, one back to back. And I realized I was enjoying it because I love what I do, but I felt like I wasn't really present. I was just one after the other, and I wasn't really making those connections like I wanted to make. So I literally made the decision like one night that I needed to let go of the studio and find a different way. So I literally had a weekend where I sold everything. I sold all my lights. I sold all my backdrops because at that point, I wasn't even into strobes anymore. I wanted all natural light. And so I sold everything, and I went into a studio share in Northeast Minneapolis, which is a really cool art district here in Minneapolis. And so I did a studio share where I just was able to rent time when I needed it. And it's a beautiful lot, big windows, got wood floors and the brick walls and stuff. So I absolutely loved that and got rid of my overhead, like basically to nothing. Because then I officed out of my home, which I love doing too. And after about 3 years, I realized I really missed having a place to meet my clients other than a coffee shop or, some random place. And so I found a little spot near where I live in Minneapolis, Linden Hills, and I got a little office space I walked to a couple blocks away that I was able to brand and put in all of my images on the wall, big TV to, meet with my clients. And it's got a little porch that I use as a little mini studio sometimes. And so that's my setup now. And I absolutely love not having that overhead, although I would love to have a big studio and, not have to bring my stuff up and down the stairs, every time I do a session. And I have a studio closet that's huge. It's got over 300 dresses. And that's just for my clients and my seniors. I have that one in my house, and that's all the trendy stuff that's in my house. I'd love to have a place for all that, but I don't want the price tag that comes with it in the area that I want my studio. But I love where I'm at right now with my business.
You're in a great spot. I love that area.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's very central. And, and a few years ago, I started adding in the strobes and wanted to do the more fine artwork because I wanted to stand out against the shoot and burners. And that's one way that I realized that I could bring art into my photography and offer something that shoot and burners can't. So I started that. And then with that, I started the awards and accreditation with the Portrait Masters and thought, well, maybe I'll try the local award, and I just never had the desire to do it before because I thought that meant I needed to have like all the letters behind my name, which wasn't really interested to me. But I realized that through the awards and accreditation, it made me such a better photographer. I started learning what made a great image versus a good image. And it really lit a fire under me to kind of start really creating art. And so I now
noticed
offer
that
that
you
to
just
my
got
clients.
your fellow through them, right?
I did. Oh my gosh, I'm just so excited. Yeah. Through
That's
the Portrait Masters. That's a big deal. Yeah. I was excited when I got Masters and I said, oh no, I'm not stopping now. I'm going to get fellows. So it took me a year because it's a double jump to get a Master's to get a fellow. And there's 9 of us in the whole world because this is an international thing. And so I'm very proud and very humble, but yeah, I'm excited to be a part of that.
So let me ask you about awards for a second. You've said some things that I've piqued my interest in a few different spots, but I want to talk about awards real quick because I feel as though I have experienced both sides of the spectrum. I have experienced people that I feel like are so award centric that they miss out on some things, right? Like if you get so caught up in the awards themselves, I think you can miss the point.
Absolutely.
And on the other end of the spectrum, I hear probably more often, oh, I don't care about awards. Awards don't mean anything. Your clients don't care, blah, 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 blah. But you said something that I thought really hit the nail on the head. It made you a better photographer. It made you a better artist. And I feel as though like you get to a certain point, right? And I think that there's this progression, right, as you go along. And I feel like when you get to the point where you've learned a bunch and you've got because you've got a lot of experience. You've been there and done that in a lot of ways. And yet these awards and going through the Portrait Masters process, right, from masters to fellow now even, has made you a better photographer, has made you a better artist. And maybe those increments aren't giant leaps or giant bounds relative to how you learned at the beginning. Of course, you had so much more to learn, but they're still so important, because don't you think that the separators are kind of like between you and anybody else, even your competition or even anyone else, those separators, it's like the devil's in the details, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And you add those up, and 2 becomes 6, becomes 8, becomes 9 different things that you learned or that you've been able to tweak and improve upon. And all of a sudden you're really, really at another level. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And like I said, for 25 years, I just didn't need to be in the awards because I wasn't about winning awards until I realized that there was another side, and that was the learning process. And I think that's what excites me the most. And it allows me to be creative. Like during a session, I can be creative, but we also have the limits of what the client wants and what the client brings to wear. And, so I absolutely love the process of creating a session for myself where I get to style it and I get to, pick the models and do the story behind it. And that, to me, being a creative I can't sleep the night before one of those sessions because I am so excited. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going through my brain, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to shoot? And I'm so excited. So I realized that there was a need in my soul to create this type of art for the awards. And that's why I do it for myself, just because that fills my soul. But I do it for my clients because of what you said. It makes my images better. And a client might not understand what makes an image better than the other, but they know what makes when they see it, they know it. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, it's not even that you can put your finger on what you've even learned, because a lot of times we don't even know, we don't know what we don't know. But a lot of times as you progress, you don't even realize the different things that you're ingesting and that you then incorporate. It's like you said, such a slow process that eventually my images went from here to there, and it's like, okay, that it is like you don't realize until you look back. Yeah, and you're like, you look back 3 years and you're like, I am a lot better than what I used to be. Yeah, like even the first images that I entered in Portrait Masters, I think it was fall of 2017. I looked back at my first two rounds and I thought, oh my gosh, those are horrible. I just laughing because I didn't know. I had never entered any type of thing, so I didn't know about that stuff. So that was a learning, but it's been a fun process. Let me ask you this, and this is the other thing that came to my mind as you were telling your story. I see you as a bit unique in a lot of ways, but one of them is that you have started 2 businesses from scratch in 2 different areas of the country that are not alike in a lot of ways. Not at all. Right? Not at all. Like there's a lot of, it's not like you went from Fargo to Bismarck. Right. You know what I mean? Like you went from Miami to Minneapolis. So lots of ways that those 2, also 2 very different times in your life. And then the second time you had all the experience of the first time. Right. I was wondering if you could shed some light on how those 2 different, just from a general standpoint, how the experience of doing that
was so different both times? And what sort of challenges did you have that were so unique to both spots?
Well, they were day and night, basically, because when I was in Miami, I was all film. And
that too.
I was all film. There wasn't internet. And, internet was just starting.
That too.
So there was no computers.
Wow.
There was no education, really. There was nowhere for me to go to do a workshop, or there was a couple workshops way back when. But I couldn't just go on and YouTube and watch a video or Creative Live or nothing. And in Miami, they didn't do high school seniors at all. In fact, I think they still don't. And so it was just it was a very organic, hustle, very organic. But once I hit my stride, I did kids and families. That's pretty much all I did.
Right.
Someone talked me into doing a wedding once. I didn't want to do them. And I was a yes person back then. And so I started doing weddings, and by Thursday, I was like, oh my gosh, I have a wedding this weekend. And I loved the events. When I was there, I loved it, but there was so much pressure. Yes. And I just wasn't set up to do weddings. And so I did a handful of those. So when I was getting ready to leave Miami in 2001, digital was just kind of coming on the scene. And, the back of the new cameras were like 30, 40 grand, because I had a Mamiya, and I think the back was maybe it went down to 15,000, but I didn't trust it because I didn't understand it. To me, digital was what people were getting off their little tiny cameras, and we're all pixelated. Mm-hmm. And so when I moved to Minnesota, I was still film, medium format, but I started seeing these images that were just beautiful, and they just had these glow to them. And I'm like, what filter are they using? So I'm like, buying all kinds of filters for my camera, and and you don't get to retouch film. It is kind of what it is, which is the art. Nowadays, people like that as part of the art of it. Right. But once I started learning about digital, I went to a workshop, and they were talking about, I saw all these beautiful images on the wall. And when the speaker started, it was all digital and Photoshop. So I literally went home, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to learn how to use a computer. Yep. I have to buy new cameras. I have to buy software. And so, but I did. I went literally cold turkey. And but it was about 2004. So that I did that. I made that change. I trusted in it. And I'm like, that's it. That's where I have to be. Normally, I like to be on the cutting edge of technology, but technology and me aren't great friends all the time. So, I started and haven't looked back. And as an artist, digital has really changed the game a lot. And then, all the work, learning and making myself better, and getting to add high school seniors, which is sort of the bulk of my business right now. And then starting out already in that process, I didn't really have fear the first time in Miami either. I'm not a fearful person. I just jump and I do. And luckily it works out. I think maybe that's where my faith comes in. But in Minnesota, I wasn't fearful. I just never doubted it. I just knew it was going to work out.
So you weren't scared either time?
No, I wasn't. And for me, it was do or die. Especially in Minnesota, I was a single mom. I mean, I had two kids in middle high school, and I didn't have a choice to just, hang out and relax and, kind of do it at a slow pace. It was all or nothing. And I have such a passion for what I do. And after 27 years, I love it more than probably I did when I started. And I think having a passion for what you do helps. Not having that fear to, little things. I had fear over little things, but, I just dealt with them and got over them. But in the big scope, I don't know, I just did it. And
how do you avoid the burnout? And I ask because you've said the passion word, you've used the passion word, which is good. But I'm always, in my mind, I have a red flag that goes up because first of all, if you are doing for a living what you're passionate about, that's awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always leery about it in that, what if your passion, becomes something that you get burned out on, and then
More
all of a
burden.
sudden,
Yeah.
well, yeah, right. And then you're doing for a living what once you were passionate about, but now you can't stand. And I'm asking because I've seen it and I get it.
Yeah.
So how do you, 27 years is a lot longer than most also, right?
Yeah.
How have you sustained that?
I wish I knew that. People ask me that a lot because I do, in lots of conversations with photographers, I see photographers get burnt out so easy. And I see those conversations and I just don't. I don't know why.
You just don't.
I wish I had a great answer for you. I am a very positive person. I mean, I literally don't think negatively very often. And I think, I don't know, I guess maybe by the end of a busy summer, and in the fall, that's super busy here because our season here is compacted. I do get a little burnt out, but not to any point where I don't love what I do.
Right.
I think what I do, I just love all my clients and the process. Yeah. I love the whole process of doing the session and having fun with them. And I love the process of editing and transforming the images. And so I think I love the whole process. I think what happens with a lot of photographers is when they get into photography, they think, oh, this is fun. I just get to go take pictures of people and and I'm going to make a lot of money. They don't realize that that's 10% of what we do.
Right.
90% is having the constant hustle of marketing, especially with seniors, because you have to get a new batch all the time, and it's the technology and it's the calling and it's the Photoshop and it's the sales. People don't like sales, and it's the production and it's the fears that are in it. And so I think a lot of photographers get caught up in that 90% of what they don't love about photography. But I don't know. I just love pretty much everything except the accounting, but I hand off what I don't enjoy. Like in the beginning when I started, I hated sales. I hated it. I would have given everybody everything because I just loved everybody. It's like, oh, they're my friends now. Let me just give them everything. Well, and so I hired someone to do my sales for me. And I had someone do my sales up until I let go of my studio 7 years ago.
I think that's a fantastic solution for that issue.
Oh, for anything you don't like. Like if you don't love the editing process, send it to a retoucher, Right. Right. I think people a lot of times burn out also if they don't have the right balance between their home life, their family life, and their work life. Mm-hmm. And things get tough, and then they're not seeing their family, and so they're not reaping rewards, or maybe they're not making as much as they want because they're undervaluing themselves, and so they feel like they're struggling to keep their head above water. So there's a lot of reasons for burnout, but I've been lucky. I haven't been burned out yet.
I don't think it's luck, though.
I don't know. Maybe it's just frame of mind.
I don't think it's luck. Yeah. Now, luck might be a very small factor, but somebody told me. We talked about you at one point quite a while ago, and they're like, you have to talk to Annie. She's so positive. She's one of the most positive people I know. And I thought,
I love that person.
I can't remember who it was. I talked to a lot of people, and but I know that happens. Yeah. It did happen. Somebody told me that about you. And that was intriguing and encouraging to me. Yeah. And especially during this last year, when you're having these conversations and somebody starts talking about how positive somebody is, I felt like I was drawn to that even more. And you brought it up yourself too. So I want to know, this might kind of tie into what it is that I also wanted to talk to you about, which was the connection piece. Mm-hmm. Why are you a positive person? Because I think a big piece of that is a choice.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's how you wake up in the morning and you have a choice. And I choose to be happy, and I choose to be positive, and I choose to have, faith in my life, and I choose to be around positive people, and I choose to give of myself. And I think in giving, I feel like I'm getting, and I just have always been like that. And I don't understand negative people. I really don't. Like, and when you're on Facebook and seeing so many conversations, I just don't understand people that wake up and are just like, oh, this and oh, that, because I know that what happens in our life is a huge force of what we believe in and what we create. And I've always in my entire life, my parents, I grew up in a wonderful, happy home. And I believe I just grew up with that. Maybe I got double positive genes. I don't know, but,
from both sides,
but it is a choice. It really is. I think even the person that's negative and sees the negative side of things can become positive, but it takes work, and it takes faith, and it takes trust. And, I just choose to look at the happy.
What do you say to the person, especially again, this past year and a half? It's been harder than most, right? I think for most, it's been harder than most other years.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that. What do you say to the person that because first of all, there's going to be someone that hears this and says to themselves, that's a bunch of baloney, whatever. Okay.
Let them, because they're negative. They're the negative ones.
Sure. And everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Someone that says that, that's where they're going to be. That's where they're going to be.
Right.
What do you say to the person that is struggling with negativity, or they're in a hard spot or a rut or whatever they're at in their life right now, and they hear what you say and it rings true to them, like they hear the truth in it, and they think to themselves, yeah, that sounds about right, but I'm not there, and I don't know how to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What sort of advice do you have for somebody that finds themselves in that position?
I would tell someone like that to maybe start journaling, and journal positive things that are in their life. Just write down everything in your life that is so good. And I think I honestly feel like negativity weighs more than positivity in people's minds that are negative, because I think they could have 10 amazing things happen to them, one day, and one little negative things happen, and that's what they're going to concentrate on.
And they focus on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
However, I feel projecting something out in the world, I think happy and positive makes a bigger impact. But a person that will dwell on that negative, I think, will not see the positive. So I would just tell them to start writing down everything in their life that is really, really good.
It sounds like you're talking about gratitude.
Oh, you know what? That is so funny, because that is a huge word for me. I do. When I pray, a lot of times I pray for people, but for myself, I just give myself moments of gratitude where I thank my Creator for the good things that have happened to me. Like every day, I try to take 5 minutes at the end of my day before I go to bed, and I just do prayers of gratitude and thankfulness. And I think that's a huge thing in a positive mindset too, is being grateful for the good. And one thing too is you have to understand that not everything in life is going to be great and happy, and things happen to us no matter how positive we are and how happy and how hard we try. Things are going to happen that are negative in our life, but it's how we choose to face that. And I've always faced it as a learning tool, sort of like getting a bad score in an awards. I don't think of it as something horrible. I think of it as a learning tool that, I'm going to learn about that and learn what I did wrong so I can be better. And so it's the same thing when, you're going through trials and maybe it's someone that's sick, or maybe it's a year that's sick, or maybe it's a business that's failing, or this past year, maybe it was just some people needed to have people around them and they were stuck at home, and, just whatever it is in your life that is negative, just, you have to trust in whoever you believe in, that there's a reason for that to make you a better person, and to concentrate on the good things, to concentrate on the beautiful people around you and what you can give to society that's good.
I have a couple kids, and we talk about gratitude a lot. It's probably one of the biggest things that we discuss. And it sounds to me as though this mindset or this framework was passed to you from your parents, and you were fortunate in that. And I feel like I could say the same thing about myself. What sort of measures do you take? I'm asking as a dad. Now. What sort of measures do you take to pass that framework, that mindset onto your children?
Lead by example. Absolutely. My kids tell me all the time how they got positive things from watching me. It's not necessarily, I mean, we did have conversations. I mean, they're adults now, and, we still have conversations about that now and then. But growing up, I knew that it was, especially being from a divorced family. And when I moved to Minnesota, their dad was back in Guatemala. So, there was, I was kind of dealing with that as well, and trying to keep them on a positive vibe that way as well. But honestly, I do believe they see everything we do, and they listen to everything we say, and how we treat other people. And I remember teaching them to do kindimosities, and I think it was a word I just made up. And and I said, that's just like random little things you do for people. Like when you see someone with their arms full, go help them open a door. Or just when you see someone in need, even if it's tiny, to help them. And another thing I do is just random people, I will just compliment them on anything. Like you see someone in a store, like and you're kind of shopping beside them, say, oh my gosh, I love your scarf. That is so beautiful. And you will see people just perk up and just their eyes light up for just one little comment. Maybe they've had a hard day, or maybe no one has paid them a compliment in forever. And so I taught my kids that. And I remember a couple of times my kids coming home was like, oh my God, Mom, I did a kindimosity today. So, it's lead by example.
I love how you say the little things, because I think sometimes it's easy for us to dismiss or convince ourselves, right, not to take that little leap into saying something or doing something, because we can convince ourselves, oh, it's not that big of a deal anyway. But I'm also struck by the other side of that, in that isn't it something how little it takes to really make a huge difference in someone's day? Like that, you mentioned it, that little moment, you see it on their face, you see it in their expression and their body language and their whole countenance. And also when it happens to us, every so often when someone does something or how that feels.
Absolutely.
It can change your whole day.
Yeah, you start skipping and singing, and I'm the kind of person, I'd rather be on the giving side of that. I love making people happy and feel good. And so if I can, change someone's outlook that day, or change, they might just go and do that to someone else. And then, it kind of grows.
So when you say, is it say it again, kindimosity?
Kindimosity. It's like generosity and a kindness and a generosity kind of in one word. So kindimosity.
Like kindimosity.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe we'll make it a dictionary thing.
Well, I'm going to, you've introduced something like that. It starts getting used enough. And then all of a sudden Webster's is like, kindimosity. That's a word now.
There we go. Yep. Let's do it.
Tell me this, and finish up with this, if you would. I would like to know, especially given your outlook now, and getting to know you a little bit and the kind of person that you are, how are you choosing to view this year? We're about a quarter done, right? And your compressed big season is really on the horizon, right? Yep. What are you doing? What are you thinking? Like, how are you going into that this year, all things considered?
You mean because of COVID, or just in general?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
All of it.
COVID has not really changed how I've run my business. Yes, last year with our shutdown, I had literally just launched a campaign where I was going to photograph 50 women over the age of 50. It was my gift to women to sort of shed light on how amazing women are as they're aging, because I think society kind of pushes us, I say us because I'm over 50, back. And I think women think that their value goes down. But my goal with this campaign was to show women that absolutely they are powerful, strong, and amazingly beautiful. Yeah. And so I literally had 25 sessions on the books from mid-March till June. And I think I did one, and then they all got postponed. Oh. And so that was really the only thing that COVID really affected in my business, because by the time we were able to photograph back in June again, my summer was already booked with high school seniors, because that was outdoors, and that's something that they kind of need to do in their life. And I found that parents wanted to give their kids a better, bigger experience because they were missing out on a lot on the school end. So this was something that they could give them. So they were, booking bigger sessions. Their orders were bigger. They were ordering bigger products, and they just wanted to have that amazing experience. And so I actually had a really busy year last year. So
are you not going into then this year?
I'm not
phased very much by last year, or are you essentially taking the same attitude and mindset into this year that you just always do? I
am finally rebooking the women that I had to postpone last year. So I'm trying to rebook them into by the end of June, when my summer starts with my seniors. But the seniors come, you have faith in my, I do have this little fear, like every spring, oh my gosh, what if nobody calls me, But I'm taking steps in my marketing and, word of mouth, and I know they're starting to call already, and I know my summer will fill up, and I honestly don't really think about it. But yeah, I guess I'm not letting COVID stop me, unless there's like a governor saying, okay, stop.
Right. Unless the law says stop.
Right. But, because, the safety obviously is number one important.
Of course.
But at this point, it seems like everything is starting to open up. People are getting vaccinated. And I honestly don't feel that it's going to be, it'll be less of an issue than it was last summer.
Sure.
But luckily I'm in a market with the seniors that, and families too. I mean, they came in droves in the fall. So, I'm just taking it one day at a time and positively.
I think your positive attitude is something that everyone can learn from, myself included.
Yeah. And if there's any naysayers, I'm happy to have a conversation with you.
Oh, there you go. Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Hope you don't regret saying that.
I won't. I love talking to people and hearing their stories, and, hopefully,
me too. Good. Well, I appreciate you spending time and telling me yours. This was wonderful.
Thank you. It was really fun chatting with you.
Appreciate it. Until next time, and maybe we'll see each other in person someday.
Absolutely. Well, when you come to Minnesota, let me know. I'll take you out for lunch.
Thanks for joining me.
All right. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this conversation presented by White House Custom Color on YouTube. Be sure to check out our other content and click that subscribe button right there. Right there. It's there somewhere.